Hi, and welcome. Happy Friday, everybody. Welcome to USITT's Follow-Up Fridays. We're thrilled to welcome CAST Software today and Emily Trimby for enhancing learning and production values through automation. We think we're going to hold questions and answers till the end. Welcome, Emily. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for joining us for Virtual Anywhere 2021. It's good to be able to catch up with you now. How are you doing today?
Yeah, I'm really good. How are you?
Excellent. Thank you for asking.
Wonderful. Yeah, we're so excited to be here to be able to present today. I hope that everyone's having a beautiful day like I am. It's such a good Friday for it. As Christine said, we're going to talk about enhancing learning and production values through automation. I work for CAST Software. My shirt says, other side says Black Tracks. So that's what we'll be focusing on today. And I'll take you a little bit through the system, a little bit through some examples of shows or integrations that we've done, and then talk about some of the values and how it's helpful for learning and productions. And again, as Christine says, if you have questions, I so encourage you to hold on to them. At the end, I'll be happy to answer anything that anybody has.
Let me touch on the questions again for a second, folks. So whether you're streaming live from YouTube or from Facebook, just enter them into the chat. I receive them on my screen. We make them live at the end, and hopefully I hit them all. And if you don't, just enter your questions again. Hopefully we have an onslaught of questions for you today, Emily. Well, why don't I bring up your screen and you can take it away anytime you're ready.
Fantastic. So enhancing learning and production value through automation. We've already talked about what today's going to look like, so I'm just going to launch right into it. Who am I for context? Because you've got this human on your screen and you don't know who she is. So I am Emily Trimby. My pronouns are she, her. I work currently as an educational product specialist and a technical sales consultant at CAST Software. In the past, I worked as a Black Tracks product specialist. What does that mean? It means that I've spent a lot of hands-on time with the system. I used to go and set it up in person on shows. I used to do tech support remotely in person, and I would do Q&A, like quality assurance testing on the system. So I'm very familiar with Black Tracks. In the past, how I got where I got, I worked as a freelancer, but I also graduated from the BFA production and design program at Ryerson Theatre School. Then I worked as a freelancer as a technician and lighting designer for a couple of months before I very quickly joined CAST in the fall of 2019. A year later, I have started my Master's of Digital Media, so I switched to the education and sales departments and stayed on part-time while I've been doing that. What is Black Tracks? Some of you will already know, and I'm very excited for those that do already know, but in case you don't, we're going to go through a little bit about what it is and then how it works and what the components are. So Black Tracks is a vision-based real-time tracking system that connects to different applications such as lights and media servers and really any other third party that you can think of, as long as it can accept the RTT RPM open protocol. What's the RTT RPM open protocol? It's a bit of a mouthful for you to say until you get used to it, but it stands for the real-time tracking protocol, motion or lighting. So you might have RTT RPL as well. It is an open protocol, as I mentioned, so if you can write to it, you can do any integrations that you want. Some of the integrations that we already do, we have lighting. This is a very popular one. You can easily integrate lighting with lighting consoles using the SACN and ArtNet protocols. Media servers, different media servers such as, but not limited to in any way, Disguise, or Green Hippo, or Watchout are some examples of ones that we do. And we just send the positional data over. And then within the softwares, you're able to do some very cool tracking or mapping or anything like that. Audio, I wish I could show you audio over this webinar, but unfortunately I can't. It is a very immersive experience when you partner with Black Tracks. Things such as the L-Acoustics ELISA system allow you to attach tracking data to a source, for example, a performer with a microphone. And then as they move around the stage, left to right, for example, if they're moving to the left, you could have all the sound pan with them into the left side speakers. And it really creates a nice immersive audio experience. Black tracks can also be included in broadcast, which is something very exciting, new, and rising in popularity as the pandemics happened, actually. But you can integrate with things such as virtual effects, robotics, camera control. A real fun one that we had at a trade show last February, we were able to have a beacon in someone's hand, and as they moved it around on the screen, you could see an augmented reality artifact that moved with them. These ones I'm not going to go into so far, but just so that you're aware that they also exist. You can do particle generation, such as Notch, that can have tracking data with it. Gaming engines, such as Unity or Unreal, and have virtual gaming. And different custom solutions. Things that have popped up are drones. That's a very popular new one. Robotics, as I mentioned with the broadcast, having robots move around. Anything that you can think of, really. We've made our protocol open so that the limits can be kind of limitless. I'm going to have you watch today a very brief video of our lighting and our media reels, because as much as I can try and tell you what Black Tracks looks like, it's far more immersive to kind of watch it. And since you guys can't be in the space with us today, I figured that a video would do the next best thing. So that was our lighting one. And next, apologies, folks. This one is our media and video reel. It's always kind of fun for me to watch those, because I remember watching them 2 years ago before I started working at CAST, going, wow, that's so cool. And it's such a dream to be working with it now. And this is going to jump. There we go. So how does it work? I'm not going to dive too deep into exactly how Black Tracks works today. We do have many training sessions, different seminars, things. Just watch for our social media and the link there at the bottom. If you are curious to learn more in depth about what is Black Tracks, how does it work, I encourage you to look there. But just so that you understand a little bit more and have some context for today's presentation, I'm going to take you through some of the components. So, we do, you've got a little blocker in the corner there, but I'll tell you what it says. So it's beacon and stringers. The beacons there are kind of what looks like the tiny little mic pack. You can see from the measurements, they are quite small and they are quite light. I'll attest to that. They sit in your pocket really nicely. So a Black Tracks beacon has one purpose, and it's to declare the location in the defined space. And when I say defined space, I mean the space that you as the user have decided that you want to track. And it does so by powering and setting the LED pulse in the stringer. The stringer is the long piece there that kind of looks like a live microphone, but not really, with the white end. Each LED in a stringer, it's an infrared LED. and it pulses at a very specific rate to establish its own unique ID. Depending on the needs, these stringers can be customized in color, in cable length, in diffuser, and really anything that you need fixed or customized for your project, we have definitely done. So from there, these sensors, which are essentially infrared cameras, they're powered over PoE. You can see the little Ethernet there at the side. They will pick up those flashing IDs, and they will take them and triangulate using the software where in the space that point is, which allows you to track each individual point. Oh, I did forget to mention that each stringer or each beacon can track power 3 stringers at once. So you can have up to 3 points per beacon, which gives you not only positional data, but also yaw, pitch, and roll data. So from the sensors, they go back to the server. This is the engines, the brain, the communication hub of the Blacktrack system. The Blacktrack server comes equipped with all of its software pre-installed. So if you're familiar with WYSIWYG, we have a special version that works with Blacktracks called BTWYG. And it works kind of as a visualizer. So as things are tracked in the space and you've got your lighting moving and things, you can actually see that happening virtually in the BTWYG space that you've built as well. You've got Blacktracks and Motive on it as well. With these servers, you can choose from single, double, or unlimited output servers. What does that mean? It means that if you are just using lighting and you only ever want to use lighting or video or audio and only one at a time, you may only need a single output server. You may also need only a double output server because you need to run a main and a backup at one point. You also might be running lighting and audio. What you want to do with your outputs is not locked in. It's just how many of them you can send out. Or you can have an unlimited output server, and you can send as many things anywhere as you'd like. And it gets very fun and complicated in a good way at that point. So now I'm going to walk you through some examples of different productions or projects that we've been on, and how Blacktracks either affected or integrated into those projects. The first one we're going to talk about is American Utopia. This was a very, very interesting project. Excuse me. And there's a really great quote on our blog. All of these projects are available for you to see on our website's showcase page as well. So this is a really fun project, and they had a very cool kind of R&D process that Blacktracks was able to be part of in the development and the design of the show. And I believe the quote on the blog said, Blacktracks was the solution to the problem that they didn't know that they had. So, and it functioned for them as so much more than like a replacement for a manual follow spot. And I'm going to show you an example in the next slide as to how that worked. So, you can see this technician or performer walking around.
By him.
Yeah, in the center.
If there were other people in there, they'd just have to stay in line.
Yes.
Because it's nice. It's nice that it all looks totally orderly.
Yeah.
So he's wearing a beacon there and walking around, and all of those lights are following its positional data respective to him. So as in the performance, one person would walk forward, those lines would all stay nice and sharp, and the performers would walk into the lights, versus having each performer wearing a beacon would also be possible. There would be a lot more beacons on stage, and the line might not be quite as sharp as nice. So there's a good example of how a little bit goes quite a long way. The Falcon is a very cool project. I was at Blacktracks for this. I did not get to participate in this project, unfortunately. But we actually did a whole nother seminar on this Falcon. We tracked a 50-foot Falcon with Excite Labs as much of a part of a much bigger project as well. It was part of tracking or projection mapping a video show onto a beautiful ancient city ruins, which you'll see in the next video I've got. But this Falcon was manually operated, so they needed a solution that was going to work with precision accuracy as part of this show. And in this next video, you're going to see, I'm going to let it run to the end, and then I'm going to pause it so that you can see a little bit more in depth on what that looked like on the Falcon. But this will give you an idea of a very large scale show. There were, I think, 50 stringers on the Falcon and 20 sensors, which are those cameras to pick up those points to track. And a very large scale, but incredibly beautiful piece.
حيث تلتقي المكارم والمآثر في ملتقى الوديان هنا اكتشف المكان وادي حنيفة.
So you can see the manually operated performers below with the sticks. And that's the Falcon. Here we go. I'm going to take it back just a little bit there. So you can see that this is the Falcon with no projection mapping on it. And all these sticks here are representative of stringers. So these are where they're getting those data points on what that Falcon looks like and where it is in space so that they can do the mapping. It was used, I believe the video tracking was using a GX2 disguised media server. Again, all of these examples that I'm showing you, there's lots of detail on our website. If you are just dying to know how something worked, lots of them have blog posts. You can read more about them, and I encourage you to. It's very, very cool. And the next one I'm going to show you is Master of Shapes VR go-karts. This is not a performance-based piece, but I think a really good example of how we can integrate with gaming engines. And my personal, just kind of, this is so cool favorite piece that we've done. Essentially, this is a world that was created in Unreal Gaming Engine, which some of you might be familiar with. It's definitely gained some traction as they've got their DMX integration in, and lots of people are doing previs in. But before that, we had Master of Shapes built this beautiful, it's inspired by like a dystopian Japanese go-kart track. And their goal was to have somebody drive a go-kart in a warehouse. The track looks the same, but using a VR headset so that they actually can't see the world around them. They're seeing the space that they're driving through, which you might go, gosh, that sounds like it can't possibly be safe, but I promise you my coworker did it. He's completely fine. And he said it was the coolest thing he's done in a long time. So I'm going to show you a short, sweet video or chunk of a video. Again, the longer one is available if you want more details about this project, about what that looked like, and you can kind of see how it worked.
Toyota Supra doing like donuts on a hockey rink, and projection was tracking it. When we saw that, we're like, whoa, this is a huge space, and they're tracking a car. Like, this is exactly what we need, because there's not a lot of large scale motion capture solutions out there that we had seen. So that's what we stumbled upon BlackTrax. And then once we started to look into the system, we realized it's actually would work perfect for something like this. BlackTrax actually has a plugin for Unreal Engine that transmits all the server data you see behind me into Unreal Engine. So it transmits what they call like a rigid body, and it tells us the orientation and position of the go-kart in world space. So we match that to our video game, and it lets us move it just like a normal character.
And that right there, the gentleman that drove up in the go-kart, that was my coworker. So that's proof that he definitely did it himself and survived. The last show that I want to talk to you about was Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime at Ohio State University. And they did something very, very, I think, leads itself to talk about the artistic elevation, which we will get into a little bit more, the creative elevation that automation provides. But this show used BlackTrax to extend the world of the protagonist, Christopher. And if you're not familiar with the show, Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime, Christopher is a boy that goes on an adventure, but he is on the spectrum. And so using BlackTrax, they were able to kind of extend his world and provide the audience a little bit of what it's like to be him, see the world like he does. And they used lighting and video tracking for this piece as well. So I don't have any videos, unfortunately, but I'll take you through a couple of photos here, as well as a quote at the end from the director. So you can see at the back there, there's that nice bubble that's tracking that person. And as they move around the stage, that bubble in the video would go with them and track with them. This is another photo, but I'm going to read you the quote just because I've realized it might be a little bit hard to read. So it says, "The wide-ranging capabilities of the BlackTracks technology with both lighting and media design afforded us tremendous storytelling opportunities. BlackTracks gave Alex and Mary, those are the performers, the opportunity to push their imaginative artistry further and further. As a result, our collaborative experience had a freedom and an excitement that resonated deeply in the work on stage and for each of us as artists." And that was Kevin McClatchy, the director of this production. So this is a good example of, we're all kind of excited, and I think many of us here are here on behalf of, I love technology, or I love new technology and I want to see how it works. But this technology doesn't just allow elevation for us and our designs, it also allows freedom for performers. You know, if you are a performer that needs to be tracked by an automated light, not a follow spot, and you need to hit your line in those 3 steps the exact same every time, you're thinking about that versus being able to just dive into your character and live that on the stage, and knowing that wherever you walk, the follow spot's going to be on you. Which we do have with conventional follow spots, but, you know, knowing that about video or any other integration that we have allows more artistic freedom there as well. So now kind of what we're really here to talk about, how does this elevate learning? I'm going to speak from the perspective as a student. I'm currently a student. I have been a student for far too long now. This is, I had a quick break, but basically for the past 6 years, I've been in my student format. And when I look at schools, I'm looking at what do they have for me to play with? And it's not just for fun. It's that when I go to a school, this is me paying, truly, to expose myself to different technologies. This is me taking the time out of my life where I could be working, where I could be learning on the job, and saying, I'm going to focus for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years on learning technology, learning my craft, and then entering the workforce a little bit later. So having that state-of-the-art technology at a school is really appealing to me because it gives me the time to learn it, to make mistakes, and keep up with those technology innovations that maybe are not just BlackTracks, but, you know, the fancy lights, the fancy programming wings, things like that, and having the time to learn that. BlackTracks specifically, I didn't know what BlackTracks was until 6 months before I started working there, not even 5 months. I got to attend a chat by Peter Ningreni when I was at Ryerson University. He came in to do a chat while he was in town doing Dear Evan Hansen in Toronto. And he spoke about using BlackTracks. And I was like, what is this weird, cool thing? And one of the my coworkers now and an old student from the school was there too, and he was currently, I think, working at CAST. And he kind of spoke a little bit about what BlackTracks worked and how the technology worked, and I was like, wow, this is incredible. And all of these things that I had learned at university finally had an application. So using automated systems reinforces, we're going to talk a whole other slide about the skills specifically, but reinforces the skills that you've learned with other systems in another format, which reinforces them into your brain. Finally, and this one's a little bit hard to explain, but I hope that it comes across as important to you as I feel it is to me. Out-of-the-box learning is so hard to come across, and I think that we all pride ourselves on doing out-of-the-box learning and getting creative, especially with performance and design. But regardless of where you attend school or where you train, you set structure to how you are learning. And that structure will then follow you for a while. You may break the structure, you may revisit the structure, you may develop the structure that you've learned in, but how you work when you leave school is defined by your experience at school. And the more tools that we add to our toolbox, the more things we're exposed to, the more chances we have to innovate and to be creative, the bigger our boxes that we function within. So by bringing in automation, and we'll talk about the creative elevation and the technology elevation, we add those tools to our toolbox and we grow our box that we've learned into. So I guess it's not really out of the box learning, but it's growing that box that we learn within. And I think that's really important to education, especially as we train our next designers, our next technicians, our next programmers, that they have an open mind or a larger structure to work within to be successful as they move forward in their careers. The creative innovation or elevation that I was speaking about is, there's some really good examples, but I want to start off with a short story. When I was a Blacktrack specialist, I trained people as well. So we would do Blacktrack training courses. And we would talk about the creative and the technology. But one of the sessions that I did, one of the sessions that I did was with a designer and his assistants. And this designer showed up and was like, great. So tell me a little bit about how it works, but I care much, much more about what I can do with it. What does using Blacktracks mean for me? And my response to him at the time was really like, well, what do you want to do? What would you like to do? And I'll tell you if you can do it. And through 3 days, I think it was 3 days that they were there with us, we didn't run into a thing that they couldn't do. Some of them took us 2 seconds to set up and show him, yes, you can have that string of lights following that performer. And some of them took us a couple minutes to program in. But overall, he was really pleased to see that there wasn't a single thing that he could think of that wasn't achievable. And things that, definitely could have been achievable sans Blacktracks, but would have taken hours of programming, would have been hours of rehearsal to get the performer to take those steps to do the sequence properly. So taking the complex out of your design process and just having that creative thought and proceeding with it is the first thing I wanted to mention. Making and achieving your wildest dreams, your design dreams, simpler just by incorporating tracking data. I can't count the amount of times where I didn't have a follow spot or my follow spot was busy somewhere else and I was using an automated light or an IQ and I had to track across the stage and rehearse it 5 times with a performer. But just put a beacon on them, and as they walk, that light will follow them. And as they cross the stage and leave the stage, it will turn off. Makes everything simpler. Finally, with Blacktracks, we can push the limits of conventional design. All these things that we've trained ourselves to think, this isn't possible, this isn't how it works. A lot of them disappear when you incorporate tracking data into your workflow. And I think that currently, if you're new to Blacktracks, it will still take effort, it will still take thought, but as you have those creative thoughts, you can kind of go, oh yeah, I don't have to block off that avenue that I want to take. And in turn, that helps us to create better art. Technological elevation. So tracking data and automation simplifies your show. It truly does. And you might go, no, Emily, that's silly. By adding tracking data and automation, I'm adding an element to my show. It's more complex. But as I spoke about before, spending those time programming those cues, creating that really complex follow spot tracking chart, things like that can disappear because you're going to program them in, and it incorporates, there's a Blacktracks programming side and a lighting programming side, for example. And you just set who you want to follow and any other details that you have. You can offset things, but I'm not going to dive into that too much because I think that that's better covered in a whole nother day. You set that look, you set what you want Blacktracks to be doing, and then you move on versus saying, follow spot 1, you got to follow that character in the blue sweater for the next whatever. It reduces the need for overly complex queuing. As I've already said, I think that's pretty self-explanatory, and simplifies or eliminates the need for manual follow spots. A lot of people feel very anxious when we say that we can eliminate manual follow spots. It doesn't have to. We've seen many shows go, man, I really just can't put a follow spot operator in the position where I want a follow spot, but these 2 other follow spot positions at the back of the front of the house rail still work, or wherever you've got them. So you can use both. You can have 2 manual follow spot operators and 2 automated fixtures. It's really limitless to what you want to do. Careers. A lot of people are going, wow, this seems like a cool thing, but what can I do with it? So these are just a few. of the most common careers that I've seen people have after getting Black Tracks training. Obviously, myself, I trained in and went directly to the company, but cruise ships, there's tons of cruise ships that use Black Tracks. They need people that know how to use it. You could be a house technician in a venue that has it. You could freelance as a Black Tracks technician. Lots of concert tours will have Black Tracks on them. And we don't send our technicians on tour. We keep them in-house. We'll send them out to set up shows, to help out, to do training, but you can't keep one of us for a year and a half. So being somebody that knows how to use the system and being able to go on that tour ensures work. Designers, I know lots of people will go, but a designer is a freelance position anyways. But yes, as a designer, you want to know how it works, even if you're not the one setting it up. And as an assistant, it's a really valuable asset to know how to use this, especially if your designer doesn't. And then you can be kind of like that reference person for them directly going, yes, this will work. Yes, this will work. Hopefully no, this won't work ever, but you never know. And then, as I said, kind of freelance Black Track technician and touring technician go hand in hand. You can spend time on Disney on Ice. I've seen lots of Black Track technicians there. There might be a Broadway tour that's using the production. Production is using Black Tracks. And then obviously, as I've said, with Cast directly. What skills? We were talking about the skills earlier. These are just 5 quick ones that I thought we might want to highlight for you. So networking components. There's so much networking with Black Tracks, and I don't say that to scare people because I do truly think that it is friendly enough that if you don't feel comfortable with networking, it's not going to limit you, it's just going to teach you because it gives you a motivator to want to learn the system, to want to learn how Black Tracks works. And then in turn, you're going to have to learn how networking works to be able to set it up. System integrations, pretty straightforward. If you're hooking up with a lighting console with Black Tracks, you're going to have to know how to navigate within the lighting console to get to the programming of Black Tracks into the lighting console. Yes, maybe there's a lighting programmer there with you. Maybe they don't know how to use it. So it just brings in those extra skills that you've already had, either video, lighting, audio, gaming engines, whatever you may have. Signal flow, I spent on a rather complex system, I will add, but I spent hours on a signal flow diagram for one of our trade shows, and it had, I'm going to say 7 or 8 outputs from Black Tracks, and then following all of those systems up. So another reinforcement of a skill for you. Working with various lighting and media consoles, as I mentioned, with system integrations, you're going to put your hands on different systems just by integrating them. And troubleshooting, oh boy. Black Tracks works fantastic. It's so simple to set up. And sometimes you have to troubleshoot like any other system. Sometimes your lighting console fails and you have to figure out what it is. But the troubleshooting skills that I developed through Black Tracks and the way that I learned to think was something that I never did achieve through school. So it's a very good system to teach your students while they're in school, and it will definitely spread to those other integrations, those other skills, those other areas of interest. Did I miss one? No. Okay, great. Final remarks. I just have a few final remarks as me to mostly any students that are out there. There's a few things that I want to add. I value very much that I went to a post-secondary institute, and they taught me so many things. And my program was non-specialty, so I did not take a degree in lighting. I took a degree in production and design. So I touched carpentry, I touched sound, I touched lighting, I touched video, I touched flies, like everything. I touched costumes, like everything that you might do. I had an opportunity to try. You don't need to be a jack of all trades. You can be really good at something. And that's what I would advise, is being really good at something and being that specialty person does make you desirable. And a really good opportunity for that is Black Tracks. As a student, you're going to see in the next couple of years, depending on where you are in your education, but if you're starting your education now and you're going out into the industry in 4 years, you're going to start to see shows that you wouldn't expect to have Black Tracks start to have Black Tracks on them. You're going to see shows that you don't expect to be high tech because they don't need to be, bringing in that technology anyways. And it's going to be an advantage to be part of that, to have the understanding of how those systems work as you graduate. I think that's everything for today. So I'm now going to open up the floor, and I think Christine has the ability to pop up any questions or comments. If people have any questions for me, I'd be happy to answer them. Some of them may be more appropriate for different departments, but if you are curious about super technology related things, I can also connect you with them through, if you email that email that is on the screen there, info@cast-soft.com. And I can help you connect to the proper people. Yeah, we've got a pop-up there. Perfect.
Great. Thanks, Emily. We'll wait for some questions to come in. It usually takes people a couple of minutes to digest and gather their thoughts, type them in. So I'll watch for those comments. In the meantime, if you don't mind, I'll start talking about USITT a little bit. I'll say that if you follow that URL that's on the ticker on the bottom of your screen, we have a lot of webinars coming up, and for members, a lot of these webinars are free, especially Follow-Up Fridays. We want to be your resource for the entertainment industry. So if you don't know USITT well, I'd suggest you check us out. I'm going to skip to, while we're still waiting for questions, feel free to enter them in. Oh, I have a question, so I'm going to stop mine. Let's see what Matt has to say here.
Hi, Matt. Where does in the signal chain, does Blackjack get integrated? So there's a network switch. So we will send I think I'm answering your question correctly, but so there's a network switch that will send our information to and through. And then from the network switch, we can send to lighting, video, etc. It's a different answer for different things. But the easiest way to describe it is the video or media servers. We'll just send the data directly to the media server, and then it does what it wants with that information. So basically, it's just direct. So we'll go from camera to server to media server. For lighting, which is a slightly different process, there's a merge node involved for the DMX, and we'll go out from the lighting console into the merge node, which then merges it with the DMX information for the lighting fixtures themselves. I hope that answered your question, Matt. Oh, we've got another one.
We do. Did I just show the wrong one? No. I think. Oh, no.
What is the? What are the output limitations in terms of parameters? Is one light considered an output? No. So that's a good question, actually. So in terms of output for like the system, lighting is an output. And then from there, it's pretty limitless. We've had huge rigs like the Muse tour happened, I think, in 2019. And then we've had smaller rigs where there's only a couple of lights being used. So that is really, really flexible. But no, one light is not considered an output. Lighting in a larger term is considered an output, or a lighting console. How hard is it to learn? Well, I learned it, Matt. I learned it in a week. I'll rephrase. I learned it in a week to a level where I could try and train other people. I spent 3 months under training, where I went out on different shows. But again, that's a level that is so much more elevated than what you need to know to just be able to use the system. Mine was in a way that if it kind of like caught on fire, that I could try and fix it. So that's what the tech support people are there for. There's a 24-hour tech support line as well if people needed it. But it's a 3-day or 4-day training session. So if that gives you any context, it's pretty simple.
Hey, thanks for those questions, Matt. Appreciate you writing in. We'll wait for a couple of more if you don't mind. Oh, we do have one right away. David.
What media server do I recommend that works best? Oh, this is a tricky question. I think it depends on what you want to do. I will say that Disguise is quite popular, but I don't know that is specifically because it works best. But we do have a very positive relationship with Disguise, and we work with them on a lot of projects and do a lot of integrations with them. So I will say that Disguise, Watchout, and Green Hippo are the ones that I see most frequently.
Excellent. And all USITT members and exhibitors. Thank you. Thanks, Beth. David, thanks for writing that question in. We'll take some more questions for a while. Emily, if you don't mind sticking around,
No,
I've
for sure.
planned a full hour, so we've got 20 minutes. So we'll just see. I'll just chat for a minute. I'll bring up the USITT banner again for folks who are jack of all trades. We have these webinars, these follow-up Fridays every Friday, Emily, with, again, as I said, it's exhibitors who joined us in 2021. Thank you, exhibitors. It was tough to do a virtual conference, and we appreciate you sticking with us. In the fall, we'll switch over and we will start to do preludes for those who are joining us for Baltimore. Let me kind of put that information up. Hopefully, we'll all be in person. We're all planning on being in person again in March, and we look forward to having CAST software and some Black Tracks demos or possible learning experiences there at our conference. For those of you who don't know, because you were friends with Emily, I'm just showing our website real quick. You might be here just to see Emily and not to hear me talk at all, which is fine. I'm a behind-the-scenes person, always have been. This is a picture of our website real quick. Obviously, next week, ladder safety basics. So we got some top safety individuals from the IA joining us to speak about ladder safety. Ground rigging arena, it's worth ETCP renewal credits. That there is a charge for that. There's one fee for members and then a different fee for non-members. Teaching after COVID, that's another free event. Mitigation of an out-of-balance counterweight system. These are all follow-up Fridays. And course design and syllabus preparation. And I believe that's brought to us by our Education Commission. We also have I'll get back to the questions in just 2 seconds. We have a costume symposium coming up at the end of July, and it runs like 2 hours a day for 2 weeks. So really, depending on what you do, you can do everything. So we have another question from Marty.
Great question, Marty. So Black Tracks basically approaches things as a solution-based approach. So the cost really depends on the system that you have. But I will throw out there that there are different things that you can do to increase or reduce the cost. As I mentioned before, the single, double, and unlimited output servers, they are different price tiers, which can help depending on what your goals are, as well as if you are associated with like an educational institute. For example, if you are a teacher buying 4 classes, there is a 25% discount that goes along with that. Because we definitely, obviously everyone has to keep their lights on, but we want education and Black Tracks to be 2 things that go together seamlessly. And price shouldn't be something that is a barrier for that.
Thanks, Marty. We'll wait another about 2 minutes for other questions to come in. As I'm wrapping it up, thanks for joining me today. We hope you have a nice long weekend, everybody. Hope everybody's getting back to work, actually, but celebrate Independence Day and congratulations, America, on your independence, July 4th. Have a safe weekend. Emily, any final thought? I don't see any other comments come in, but I'd love to give you another 20 seconds if you need it to.
Yeah. No, I think we've covered everything. As I mentioned before, if you are really interested in the system and you have either further questions or maybe are interested in doing a training session, I do encourage you to please reach out. You can either look on our website. Oh, we've got another question. Is there a schedule for training for Black Tracks? Where and when can I go to learn it without necessarily renting a system? Yeah, so you do not have to rent a system to do the training. Currently, we're doing online trainings because of the pandemic, but you can reach out. I don't have the email on me offhand for the training sessions, but again, if you email that info@cast-soft.com email that's on the screen there, I can connect you with the head of training guy, Nick. He's a fantastic trainer. He's been doing a really good job online. And if you prefer to wait to train in person, we don't know when that's going to be, but definitely possible. You can also come to, depending on your location, you can come to Toronto. We have a demo space here that we have previously done trainings in. I'm going to reiterate one more time, though, that for now, we aren't doing in-person trainings just to keep everyone safe during the pandemic.
See, maybe another question. Matt.
Perfect. My university had a Blacktrax installation in the spring. Yeah, yes, you did. Plymouth State University. Yeah, I think you're correct. Nick did go there. He is our trainer. He's been doing everything, working really, really hard during the pandemic to make education as accessible as possible. Matt's just got a second part to that, if we can pop it up on the screen. It is a bit of a learning curve, but I had several students that were fluent in the system after that workshop and were able to program a great show. Thanks for that, Matt. Yeah, it's always great to see testimonial from people and students or teachers of students. That kind of just reinforces it is an accessible system. It seems really scary because it's a big concept, but it is so easy to learn, so easy to use, and really does make a large difference in the shows afterwards.
Excellent. Maybe we'll just wrap this up. So, Emily, thanks again so much for joining us here today, bringing your information for us and for the industry at large. Hopefully you can, maybe there's another comment. I turn off that box and then, all right. Well, I think it's good if we keep going. So Matt's got another comment.
In tech, we created rules for what the movers and media should do and built that into the Blacktrax system. Yeah. Matt also says, please wrap up, everything's fine. But yeah, no, Matt, that's great. Yeah, you determine completely everything yourself. So whatever you want to do with the system, whatever restrictions you want to put on things, it's so your sandbox, the world's your oyster.
Thanks, Matt. I do appreciate your comments. And of course, I want to give Emily Blacktrax and CAST software as much time. If you're interested, we're interested. So that's why I didn't want to disappear too quick. Let's see if there's another comment or question.
Yeah.
There it is.
This is a really great question. So no, not currently. There's no educational demo version of Blacktrax available. You do need to run it on a PC, though. That's an important piece of information for now. That doesn't come up quite so often because it is run off the server, Mac or PC. But yeah, it is a PC program, Windows program. You can, however, there is on our website an educational version of WIG that is free for students, or there's a $99 upgrade to get more universes out of it. So yes and no to your question. There's definitely some free demos of our things online that you can get to start playing. If you learn how to use WYSIWYG, it will make learning how to use BTWYG easier. So there is benefit to that. Can I integrate with Isadora? Yes and no. Yes, you can. It's less popular, but you definitely can. I've seen people do it, and I believe that Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime, the example there that I showed you earlier, I think that they used Isadora as well.
Great. That's a comment. All right. Well, hopefully we'll see all you folks in Baltimore, and we'll see Blacktrax and CAST. Yes.
So sorry, I did just get a message from my coworker. I was unaware. Apparently there is a simulator available for you to play with. So reach out if you're interested through that info at cast-soft.com, and I can get you more information on that.
Great, thanks. I had to mute my mic for a second because my neighbor decided to start power spraying something. So I don't know. Thanks, Emily. We're going to wrap it up. Thanks again for joining us here today. You folks can always watch this again or share it with Facebook or on YouTube. And again, keep us in mind. Keep checking out our website for more, educational value coming up throughout the next few months or forever, actually, now that we're all online all the time. Hope you all get back to work soon. You have a safe and fun weekend, and we'll see you all again next week. Thanks, Emily. Have a good day. Thanks for joining us, folks. Take care.